Hello, it's Jeff Nurture, and today I am talking about Alan Wake and Alan Wake 2 and Control. I know this ain't a video game channel, but this is all new to me too. I'm not much of a gamer in general. I game somewhat. I game weekly with the fam, but other than that, I don't really game that much privately. But my cousin said, man, Alan Wake is up your alley. You should check it out. And then I played Alan Wake, and I did, and it's like, oh my god, this is like Twin Peaks video game. And it was, which I liked. But it became something much more than Twin Peaks the video game as I went forward. So in this little Remedy universe, there's Alan Wake, Control, and Alan Wake 2. Control is very important because it sort of is the expanding building blocks upon what Alan Wake introduces. And Alan Wake introduces the idea of art influencing reality. And just this idea of how it can influence reality for better and for worse. And Alan Wake has to sort of reckon with his writer's block to do it. I love it. I love the just sort of absurdity of it and the egotistical explosiveness of it, of the idea of this writer, it's up to him to save the world with his writing. And I think they kind of touch on that in the thing. Like, he thinks he's better than he is, I think, a lot of the time, which is fun and funny. I love the characters. I don't love the gameplay, but I'm not gonna. This ain't a game. I'm not talking about the gameplay. This is really more about the themes. So yeah, that's the themes of the first Alan Wake. We're just going on. Control is the one that really interested me the most conceptually at first, in a way, because with Control, they took the idea of these objects of power and how they are, and the idea of what the government, or what this specific section of the government does in trying to shield the world from these objects of power. And it has a lot of commentary about not just government oversight, but also how we perceive reality and how media influences our perception of reality. And I do think that is an important aspect to all of this, to the world, to this series, but the world also. But like, literally, just think about the fact of, like, especially now in the world of the internet, when people are coming into the world with all these images that basically sort of tell you what the world is. At what point is the world going to be able to change? Because what's established is now just in the internet. And now, or worse, you can change the world by just having control of what the people see on the internet. And I think, even though Control isn't explicitly talking about the internet, I do think it's talking about how media is consumed and delivered, especially, and how the negative effects of certain things are hidden from the public because I don't know why. Who knows why? But also, beyond those two things, I want to talk about what Sam Lake himself said that both those games were also specifically about. I was trying to look at it like I do as a movie guy from an auteur-director situation, but he said himself that it was more about the journey of Remedy, the studio itself, and how Alan Wake is about what happens when you have made an explosive action game, but you don't like necessarily action games. With Alan Wake's character, Alex Casey, he's like a detective noir action hero guy, but he doesn't love writing it, and so he's sort of trying to kill him off in his books and whatever. And I don't know the fact of the matter is, Remedy did give Max Payne to Rockstar at the end of the day, right? So maybe that's sort of a symbolic of like, well, we like Max Payne, but we don't want to do Max Payne games forever. And Alan Wake is about, okay, so I don't want to make Alex Casey books, but what the fudge do I write? And Alan Wake is about just that process of like, okay, I am going to write something new. And it's just about the terror of trying to write something new and good, which I think is fun. Now, Control is about being a video game director, according to Sam Lake. Well, I don't know if according to Sam Lake, but this is just what I'm inferring based off what he said of Alan Wake 1. But basically, you are Director Faden. You're dropped into this situation. You don't really know what's going on, but now you are the head of this entire organization. And you just sort of meet people along the way who have more or less of a grasp about what the fudge is going on. And then you all sort of trek together, and those guys become the heads of your departments, and then you all just sort of contribute into making this thing that is bigger than yourself, that might even feel ongoing, which I think that is the theme of Control also, because it's like they're stuck in this building for years also. Like, everybody is stuck. And I think that's a fun theme also. Everybody is stuck. And let's get into Alan Wake 2. I already said enough about the Control themes. I want to get into Alan Wake 2 now, because Alan Wake 2 sort of ties everything together between Control and Alan Wake 1. So, Alan Wake 2 is about, it's not a lake, it's an ocean. And now, it's not a loop, it's a spiral. I like this idea of, and it's another thing that adds to the shift of perspective that I think we need to talk about now. So back in the day when I was a kid, I used to watch Firefly. I used to love Joss Whedon stuff until Joss Whedon got canceled, okay? So sue me. But the final episode of Firefly is called Objects in Space. And one of the inspirations for Joss Whedon in writing that episode was this book called Flat World, and I did get to flip through it a little bit in college. And it's basically just the idea of these lines, they see this sinking dot appear and disappear over and over and over again. They're just like, what the heck is that? And it turns out it's a ball that's bouncing. And it's just an expanded upon idea of different perspectives and who can see whose side of the story and whatnot. And I think the episode, Objects in Space, plays with that, especially with everybody in the ship and what they think about everybody else in the ship and what they think about themselves and their place in the ship, all that jazz. What this Alan Wake, it's not a loop, it's a spiral. If you ever seen that meme that was like, oh, if it feels like you're going in circles, just shift your perspective. You're actually, spiraling upwards. I'll show it in the video, whatever. It's that same idea, thinking you're going through this meandering thing over and over, doing the same thing over and over. But the tricky thing of it is, it's not insanity, it's ascension. That's a fun idea. Like, because they always they had that idea of do the same thing over and over again. That's the definition of insanity, right? Well, what if you do something over and over again, but you just get a little bit better each time? That's ascension. And that is just an interesting idea, but you can't make the same mistakes, right? That's a thing. Maybe that's a fun little lesson that you could get from that. This is just some, I guess that was the theme part. That was 10 minutes long almost, not quite, but almost. Now let's talk about just the fun, heady, Easter eggy stuff. Mainly, so Jesse Faden, director of Control, stuck in that effing building, the old house. Alan Wake was stuck in that cauldron lake. And now Tim Breaker from Quantum Break, I don't know what his name was in Quantum Break, but in this he's Tim Breaker. He's stuck in his little time loop thing. And I noticed when I was doing the Tim Breaker Night Springs episode, you pick up a page and it has the spiral and it says you are here, and there's an arrow somewhere in the spiral. I'm basically thinking that Tim Breaker, Jesse Faden, and Alan Wake are almost, they have the potential to be like uh Ati, the janitor. And Ati the janitor, he just is like, he's always everywhere. He's everything everywhere all at once, pretty much. He's just in all the places. He could be anywhere and he could just help you or whatever. Or just be a friendly face. And I think these guys are on their path to becoming those things. Just because they're all stuck in what they all think is a loop. And Alan Wake being able to pop out of that loop could be a sign that it is something for them each to ascend to. And then at that point, what are they all supposed to do with that? Like, if Alan Wake himself is going to show up in another game, is it going to be a horror game? Is Alan Wake 3 going to be a horror game? Or is Alan Wake 3 going to be like some other wackadoo thing? Or are we going to have an Alan Wake 3? Is Alan Wake going to be in control too, and serve in a different capacity? That would be cool. That would be fun. I just like this universe. I like that they've managed to somehow make a MCU level universe out of these video games, but also telling an incredibly deep, incredibly specific story with also a plethora of film references. Like the first game, Alan Wake, obviously Twin Peaks, David Lynch references. Alan Wake 2 also has like some blatant Lost Highway references. Also, I didn't realize Alice Wake is Alice Wakefield from Lost Highway. Like that's where he got the name Alice Wake. And if that's where he got the name Alice Wake, that's probably where he got the name Alan Wake. Just saying. So there's that. Watch my David Lynch videos, for God's sake. Then there's Control. That has a lot of, not just David Lynch-ish things, but a lot of Stanley Kubrick things. Stanley Kubrick rugs. The ashtray maze kind of looks Kubrick-y. Yeah, all that jazz. So much mystique. And Alan Wake 2, surprisingly enough, even though there are still the Twin Peaks elements and, well, really just Twin Peaks elements, there's also X-Files elements. I didn't realize those two themes were so different until I was like, this feels like an X-Files episode and does not feel like a Twin Peaks episode. And I thought that was so cool. Like the distinction, like they're two very similar things that do feel very distinct, and they managed to make those influences known and lean on them, which was cool. Anyway, that's all I got to say before my camera dies. Like, comment, subscribe. Goodbye. Wake. It's an ocean.